Thank you for joining us today. We're so thankful for your presence as we anticipate the reopening of the Central Church of Christ August the 2nd. Standing with me here today is our COVID-19 team. And I want to present them to you because they worked so diligently in preparing for our return, safety as well as health. To my right is Brother Goode, who is the minister of our maintenance team here at the building. And over to my left is Brother Nash, who is our worship leader as well, working with him in the signage, Brother McKinley. And of course, we know Sister Dr. Harvin, of course, of our health ministry, and Brother Sam Bryant, who works and heads our security team. Each of them will come and present to you what they have done, their committee in coming together to make that day a safe and healthy day. And so we're so thankful because we're anticipating a great day, and each of them will present to you. So at this time, I'm going to ask Brother Goode to come and to share with us.
For a few minutes, I'll be talking about the preparation of the building for our reopening. We have now completed some of our cleaning of our new sanctuary in the building. And the cleaning involves cleaning of the carpet, which is deep cleaning. In the new fellowship hall, we have made preparation as far as cleaning and waxing the floors. And so right now, all our bathrooms have been cleaned and have been disinfected. And at the conclusion of the cleaning, then we have our disinfective cleaning, which is a mist that's sprayed and it lands on the surface to kill any COVID-19. Also in our new fellowship hall, we have made preparations to call or have prepared for an overflow. And in the overflow, we have installed 2 large 85-inch monitors to help facilitate any overflow as far as when we meet our capacity in our new sanctuary. Also, there's several sanitized foam dispensers that have been placed throughout the building. So persons that are coming can use the sanitized dispenser at any time. And until further notice, we will be utilizing the new building only, not the old building, but the new building only until further notice. So all worship service will be held in the new building. So at this time, I now want to introduce our next person, which will be Brother Nash, on the worship service.
I'll be discussing the changes we've made to our worship service protocols due to COVID-19. Over the past few months, a lot has changed with how people around the globe go about their daily lives. The same must be true when we come back together as Central to worship the Lord in spirit and in truth. We're excited about assembling together again, but we want to ensure the safety of each and every member. With that in mind, Brother McKinley, Brother Bryant, and I collaborated to adjust our protocols for worship service. Let's go over the changes that we've made right now. Next slide. So the changes we've made are to the seating accommodations, how we do prayer requests, how we take up the offering, how we do our communion, and dismissal, which Brother Bryant will go over later. So right now, let's talk about our seating. The CDC recommends practicing social distancing, which requires staying 6 feet or more from others. So what we've done is set up the seating bowl so that members are seated more than 6 feet from the closest person in front, behind, and on each side of them. Next slide. In order to maximize our space and to follow social distancing protocols, we've reopened the balcony and have also set up overflow seating in the new fellowship hall, as Brother Goode just mentioned a little bit earlier. Next slide. So let's talk about how we'll be set up. So members will occupy each third row, leaving 2 unoccupied rows between each occupied row. So if you look at our slide here, we're looking at the center aisle. So row 1 would be occupied, that's in green. Rows 2 and 3 will be empty, they're in red. Row 4 will be occupied. The 2 rows behind, 5 and 6, will be empty. Row 7 will be occupied. Rows 8 and 9 will be empty, and row 10 will be occupied. And we'll continue that same pattern as we go to the back of the sanctuary. Next slide. Members will know where to sit because the rows that will be utilized will be marked with orange stickers on the tops of the pews and social distancing markers on the floor. The markings let members know which rows they can sit on and where they can sit on the row while still following social distancing practices. Next slide. Of course, families that live in the same household do not have to social distance from one another. Next slide. And our ushers will assist with seating members. They've been trained to determine how many members can sit on each row. Next slide. So our goal is to make sure everything is as contactless as possible. So we've changed our prayer request submission process, how our brethren take up the offering, and how we give out communion. So let's talk about invitation first. During the invitation, members will no longer form a line by the stage in the front of the sanctuary. Instead, we're adjusting the process so that members can submit their request while safely social distancing. Members will be able to submit their prayer requests through the church app, or they can pick up a prayer request before entering the sanctuary, and an usher will collect it upon completion. Now let's talk about our offering. We will no longer pass around collection trays. During offering, if you are giving your contribution while at the building, you will be asked to raise your hand, and a brother will walk along an empty row directly in front of you, and you can drop your contribution in the plate. You can also continue to give online. Now let's talk about communion. We will continue using communion kits for the Lord's Supper. Before worship, sisters will hand out communion kits as members enter the sanctuary. At the end of the Lord's Supper, brothers will use the same method used for offering to collect the empty communion kits. Something that you may have noticed, next slide. Something that you may have noticed during our worship services once we get to offering and communion is that we've cut out the singing. And we've done so for everybody's protection, so that when we're collecting, the members and the brothers serving are not singing in close proximity to one another. Instead, we've chosen to read passages that are appropriate for that specific act of worship. Next slide. We will continue to monitor and make all necessary adjustments to our worship service protocols. We ask for your compliance, patience, and prayers as we continue to keep your safety in mind. We want to thank you in advance for your cooperation. Now, Brother Randy McKinley will talk about signage.
Thank you, Brother Nash. The first signage we're going to talk about is our first slide, the welcome. Our welcome slide. Now, this slide is when we first come into the building. This welcome sign will be positioned down at the ramp and one of the doors, the door to your left, once you come down to the ramp to enter into the church building. So it says, in accordance with guidelines recommended by government and local public health officials, the following safety measures are required within common areas of the building. Do not enter if you feel sick and or you are experiencing these symptoms: chills, repeated shaking with chills, muscle pain, headache, sore throat, fever, cough, and or shortness of breath. If you notice this slide, we're talking about wearing face covering at all times, wash your hands, use hand sanitizer frequently, and maintain physical distancing 6 feet. Next slide. Enter here, so self-explanatory, right? So this is the slide which you're going to use to enter the church building. So you'll use the designated door that has this sign. So you only want to enter this door. Next slide. Exit only, also self-explanatory. So you'll see this posted as well inside the church building, letting you know to use this door to exit the church building. Next slide. Elevator protocol. So those that are using the elevator, this sign is posted, and you can start to see a theme here where we are encouraging everyone to wear a face mask, face covering at all times. also maintaining distance while you wait. Now also, if you notice on this slide, only 2 people are allowed in the elevator at one time. So you see how it's kind of catty-corner, how each person is to stand. This creates that distancing that we need of 6 feet. Next slide. Maintain physical distancing, please stand here. So these decals are going to be in the elevator, letting you know where exactly to stand in the elevator. Next slide. The restrooms. So we're encouraging, once again, wear a face mask covering or face covering at all times, wash your hands and use hand sanitizer frequently, and maintain social distancing. Next slide. Wash your hands for 20 seconds. So this decal will be in the bathroom on the actual mirrors to remind all of us to wash our hands for at least 20 seconds. Next slide. Also, while you're in the bathroom, you will see these decals on the actual stall that is closed. So this stall closed for physical distancing. So when you're in the bathroom, it won't be somebody using the stall right next to you, because we want to keep that social distancing of 6 feet. So you'll have to use the other stall that does not have this decal on it. Next slide. Maintain physical distancing, wipe down surfaces after use. So you'll see these once we get to that point where we're opening up the church building, of course. You'll see this decal maybe in the media room, or if you need to make copies, you want to make sure that you wipe down those areas that you use, that you have to physically touch your hands, as well as the kitchen areas. Next slide. Brother Goode talked about this. So this is the freestanding hand sanitizer unit. So these are posted in several places throughout the church building. We definitely encourage all of our members to use this at the proper time. Next slide. So you'll see these, and this is the decal for the floor. These are directional arrows. So these are helping all of us to maintain our social distance and actually instructing us how to move about at the church building. Next slide. So Brother Nash talked about this, and you saw a photo of this earlier. Maintain physical distancing 6 feet. Please wait here. So this is where we're going to be sitting in the sanctuary. So make sure that you sit where this decal is listed on the floor. That is my time. Thank you very much. Now we'll have Sister Lori Harvin to talk about health.
Hello, I would like to thank all the brothers for their hard work in putting things together for us as we adhere to the CDC recommendations. As it has been mentioned, the goal is to ensure that we have a safe and healthy place of worship. We know that this virus can be transmitted by coming in contact with surfaces, also by droplet or respiratory droplets. Thus is the need for many of the CDC recommendations that have already been sent forth. So I made a quick mnemonic to help us remember some basic points that we want to keep in mind to be ready. So that's our word, ready. The R, we want to remember to complete the COVID-19 questionnaire prior to service. So there has been a COVID questionnaire that has been put together by myself and other healthcare providers within the congregation to actually ask questions to find out your risk of exposing us to COVID-19. Please know that all information will be kept confidential, so that information will not be shared with anyone, but it's just so that we can ensure that no one will be entering the building that have a high risk for exposure to the COVID-19. More information in regards to how you'll have access to this survey will be coming forth at a later date. Your E, we want to eliminate germs by washing hands. As mentioned before, there will be several stations for hand washing. There are signs in your restrooms, but I also encourage everyone to also have their individual hand sanitizer so that you can frequently wash your hands, thus eliminating that risk for contamination with your hands having germs. We also have A, so we want to adhere to the social distance guidelines. Again, that was already mentioned. Signage will already be posted. This is to help keep that spread or that transmission for it not to occur. And then D, don, you want to don, mean to put on. You want to make sure you put on your mask before arriving to the building. This is important. So when the screening process will be done, there will be screeners that will come to you. To keep you safe and the screener safe, you must have on the mask before arriving. So please just make sure as you're preparing for worship, you're also making sure you have your mask on before arriving to the building. And why? We want you to yield to your body. So there are symptoms of COVID-19, and they're listed, and we went over them. However, if you wake up Sunday morning and you just do not feel well, please stay home, worship with us online, and then follow up with your healthcare provider. As we know, this virus continues to evolve, and it started with respiratory symptoms, cold, cough, headache. Now we've added GI symptoms, diarrhea, vomiting, and we don't know if other symptoms could be coming forth. So if you just don't feel well, to decrease that risk of exposing others or transmitting, we ask that you stay home and worship online. Next slide, I'm sorry. So just some points, it's the same things that I just mentioned, but just want to make sure that we understand the screening or the survey, that it needs to be done no later than 9 a.m. the morning of worship service. The reason for this is because we will be able to see the screenings that have been completed, and allows for the rest of the screening, which will be temperature taking at the building, to go pretty quickly. If you have the survey completed, when you meet with your screeners, we are pretty much just confirming that the survey was complete, there are no issues. We take your temperature, no touch, using a no-touch thermometer, and then you're able to enter the sanctuary for worship. So just wanted to touch on those few things, and to understand that the information will be kept confidential. And again, we're looking to obtain your temperature when you arrive to the church building. We know that there are a lot of things that can affect temperature, so as healthcare providers, we will keep that in mind as well. And we just ask you again to just be patient with us, pray for the whole effort, and that all will be done so that we can worship and be in a safe and healthy environment. And now I will have Brother Sam Bryant.
Thank you, Sister Harvin. With regards to our security procedures, first of all, we are transitioning into a new contract security team who we've been working with, and that is Centennial Protection Group, and they'll be providing 2 armed security officers during our services. As stated before, it's important that we control based in order to implement the procedures that have been put in place. It's important that we control the building access points to ensure that the screening procedures are followed. So with that in mind, we will limit the control, entry, and exit into the building. The doors located on the parking ramp have been designated as the only entry and exit doors for our services. We will eliminate the parking on the ramp due to screening setups at this time. With regards to our dismissals, to assist us in maintaining our social distances, after the dismissal prayer, we will exit the building using our designated evacuation exit doors based on where you're seated in the sanctuary. You'll see that we have the overhead, the slide projection. If you're facing the pulpit, if you're sitting to my right, my left, which will be your right, you will use exit door number 2. If you're in the 2 center sections of the sanctuary, at the halfway point, you'll be using door number 1, which is the door to the left, to the right, to the left of the pulpit. I'm sorry, to the right of the pulpit, which leads down to the Gelston Street exit. If you're in the center 2 aisles, located at the exit points, the exit lights or the emergency lights, you will be exiting out of door number 3. And if you're seating to the left, facing the pulpit, you'll be exiting down stairwell number 4 into the main lobby out to the parking ramp. At this time, we have Brother Rupert that'll come.
As you can see, and as you've heard, our COVID-19 team has put much work into our safety and for the return. And of course, I want to thank them for their work, and of course, ask for your prayers that God will bless our reopening and re-coming together again. Just want to remind you that after this presentation, there will be an instructional video, and so we ask that you will please take the time to view it. Once again, we want to thank our team. We ask for your prayers and, of course, your part in helping this to be a great success. So in our gathering, it will be safe and it will be a healthy one. Remember to wear your mask, also to social distance, as well as to wash your hands. May God be with us. May God be with you as we anticipate the coming together to fellowship in person once again. God bless.